Why don't we open the quiet learning journal of a girl named Luna? You see, this isn't a story about speed. It's about a peaceful journey with English, one word at a time. So let's turn the first page together, shall we? And this is really the heart of her story. It's a little reminder, isn't it, that learning asks for our time and our gentleness. So let's just slow down for a moment, take a soft breath, and let's join Luna on her thoughtful path. You know, like so many of us, Luna's journey started with that feeling of being a little bit lost. The world of online advice for her IELTS prep, well, it was just so loud, so full of opinions that all seemed to disagree with each other, and she just wasn't sure which path was the right one for her. And right there, in the middle of all that confusion, she found her first word: controversy. She was reading about this big online disagreement, you know, the one about whether AI can really replace human teachers. And for Luna, that word, it just perfectly captured that feeling of being pulled in so many different directions. So she carefully wrote the word down in her notebook. She made a little note about how people use it, like in a heated controversy. And she started to think, I could use this word to talk about big topics in my IELTS test. And just like that, suddenly that big, confusing feeling, it felt a little less scary. Because now it had a name. Feeling pretty overwhelmed by it all, Luna decided to talk to her teacher. And her teacher's advice was so simple and so kind. She explained that there isn't just one single answer. Instead, she said every factor is important. Luna learned that a factor is just one small piece of a much bigger picture. And all of a sudden, learning didn't feel like searching for some secret key. It felt more like collecting small, precious treasures. So, back in her notebook, she wrote down that something could be a key factor. And she had this little moment of clarity. She realized she could write a really thoughtful essay now just by discussing all the different factors that influence a topic. And you can just imagine, this wave of relief just washed over her. She didn't have to find that one perfect method anymore. She just had to pay attention to all the small things. And with that gentle piece of advice, Luna felt something new. It wasn't some huge burst of confidence, not at all. It was just a small, quiet feeling. And then she learned the perfect word for it: a modicum. It means just a small, but oh so precious amount of something. A modicum of hope. And you know what? It was just enough. She wrote it down, this beautiful, soft-sounding word. She discovered that even a modicum of success is something worth celebrating. This little word became a reminder for her that even on those really tired days, just a tiny bit of effort, a tiny spark of hope, well, that was more than enough to keep her going. So, with this tiny seed of hope now planted, Luna moved into a new phase of her journey. This was her time for trying things out, for making some mistakes, and for slowly and very gently finding her own unique rhythm. As she started exploring some new tools, like an AI learning app, she felt that old sense of confusion start to creep back in. The app would sometimes give advice that contradicted what her teacher had said. It would say the complete opposite. And for a moment, she just didn't know who to trust. I think that's a feeling a lot of us can relate to. But this time, instead of panicking, Luna just opened her notebook. She learned about the noun form contradiction. And she had this realization that, you know what? Sometimes information does contradict itself, and that's okay. It wasn't a reason to be confused anymore. It was a chance to be curious and to start thinking for herself. Of course, learning is such an emotional journey, isn't it? And one evening, she was feeling so deeply frustrated, and she did something rash. She made this quick, impulsive decision and just deleted the learning app right off her phone. It was just a moment of pure frustration, that feeling that she just wasn't getting anywhere. Later that night, though, she wrote the word rash in her journal. She put it right next to its synonyms, impulsive and hasty. And I imagine she probably smiled a little to herself. Yes, it was a mistake, but it was also a really important lesson. From that day on, she made a little promise to be more patient with herself. and to try not to make rush decisions about her learning. And it was through experiences just like that that a really wonderful realization started to bloom. Luna finally understood that she didn't need to follow somebody else's idea of a perfect method. What she needed was to find her own style, her own unique way of learning. And her style? It turned out to be beautifully simple. A little less scrolling and a lot more speaking out loud to herself. She just loved this word. It felt so empowering. She thought, I'm going to develop a style that is all my own. And as she was writing this down in her notebook, this feeling of deep, deep calm just settled over her. She wasn't trying to be like anyone else anymore. She was just peacefully becoming herself. And this brought Luna to the final, and maybe the most beautiful part of her journey so far. This was the part where she finally stopped looking for all the answers outside of herself, and instead, she started to build this deep, unshakable trust from within. And you could really see this new self-trust in her work. Her notebook became meticulous. Every single page was so careful, so detailed, and filled with soft, gentle colors. This wasn't about being a perfectionist, It was about taking pride in her own effort. Her organized notes were just a reflection of her now calm, organized mind. She would practice writing the word, thinking about its synonyms like thorough and precise. And this meticulous approach, it wasn't born from pressure at all. It was more like a quiet expression of love for her own learning journey. It was care turned into action. With all this newfound patience, she made another really important promise to herself. She promised she would never again terminate her learning. She learned that to terminate means to stop something completely, to end it. And she realized the goal wasn't to never ever feel tired. The real goal was to learn how to rest, not how to quit. It's quite a formal, serious word, isn't it? And so she made a formal, serious promise to herself. She wouldn't terminate her habits. She would just adjust them when she needed to. She was building resilience. She was starting to understand that learning is a lot like breathing. It has pauses, of course, but it never truly stops. And as she was looking back through all the pages of her notebook, one final word popped into her head: overall. Looking at everything, considering the whole journey from start to finish, she could feel this profound change inside her. It had all started with so much confusion, but now there was clarity. This word, it felt like a conclusion. She knew it was the perfect word to start the final paragraph of an essay, but it was also the perfect word for this chapter of her life, because overall, she realized, the real progress wasn't just in her vocabulary lists, it was in her heart. And that, I think, is the most important lesson from Luna's journal. The real goal, it was never about mastering every grammar rule or having a perfect accent. It was about learning to trust herself. And when she finally truly did that, the language just followed. It was the quiet, beautiful result of a journey taken one word and one gentle step at a time.